They kept changing the numbers. It had become a regular occurrence. Every month they would change the first few digits of every telephone number in a town, and I could not for the life of me understand why. The town was a hollowed out husk perched by the side of an utterly unremarkable beach. The businesses had pulled their investments, the tourists had long since fled its drunk-infested streets. The town was teetering on the brink of economic ruin. No one in their right mind would ever choose to move to this hellhole. And yet, they kept changing the numbers. The town mayor issued a statement blaming the whole situation on incompetent higher powers that were incapable of managing their own bureaucracy. It was always someone else's fault. It was just another unnecessary irritation. Every day I went to call the agency, and every day I would find myself punching their old number into the keypad. The stress and shame of unemployment had severely affected my concentration and memory. My friend Emily helped me to occupy the long and lonely days. We would spend hours talking on the phone, discussing our futile attempts to find work. Emily and I met in the first year of high school and had a closeness born from years of contact. When Emily changed, I noticed immediately. All her headstrong determination and fiery passion was gone. She was now quiet and reserved and carried an air of disinterest and resentment. She had also picked up a few worrying habits. She would often repeat the ends of sentences as if she was worried that no one was listening to her. Occasionally she would stop mid-sentence and stare into space, her eyes drained of emotion. She outright refused to see the doctor and would fly into an intense rage at any suggestion of doing so. I was worried for Emily, and this concern drove me to distraction. My mind was elsewhere on a day that I made the mistake. It was humid. The wind was dead, the light was inhuman and dull. I was dehydrated, I had a searing headache and was sweating profusely. I went to call Emily and found myself punching her old number into the keypad. This wasn't unusual in the slightest. I had made this mistake countless times. What was unusual was that something answered it.
Don't hang up!
It was a female voice. It was garbled and slurred and filled with desperation.
Please help me! Please help me! Please! Please help me!
The voice belonged to Emily. All of a sudden, I was disconnected. The walls were swaying, my legs were weak, my heart was pounding. I couldn't breathe and my skin felt tight and oppressive. I was having a panic attack. I tried dialing the old number again. No answer. So I dialed Emily's current number, and after an unusually long period of time, she picked up. I tried to explain what happened, words tumbling out in a nearly incomprehensible rush. A long, uneasy silence was broken by girlish and cruel giggling.
That is just so very, very funny.
When Emily spoke, it startled and then terrified me. Not because of her unexpected joy, not because of her malice in her voice, not because of her strangely detached and inhuman tone, but because I heard her in two places at once. From the phone speaker and from behind my bedroom door. My hands were shaking, the phone clattered to the floor, my vision was blurring, the painful pounding my chest forcing the air from my lungs. I lunged for the window, I climbed up the chest of drawers, I jumped, I couldn't quite reach the window. I heard the door opening, I jumped again, I latched onto the window. The gap was tiny, the door was fully open, I couldn't breathe. The gap was too small, I tried to force myself through it, I couldn't breathe, a shadow fell across me and I couldn't get through it, my heart was burning. I couldn't breathe and I gave up. I climbed down from the chest of drawers. Emily was standing in the doorway. Her eyes did not glisten, her facial features did not reflect the light. Her appearance was soulless and plastic, an uncanny replication of human expression. Emily was standing in the doorway and I was frozen in the glare of her distant, impassionate eyes. This continued for a few minutes, until she began to unfold. A seam wormed its way across her eyes, peeling the pale pink flesh back across the pupil, the iris and the white of the eye. Viscous globules of translucent fluid oozed down her cheeks. Massive silver perforated discs emerged from the empty sockets, reforming her skull. They appeared to be rotary dials. Her skin was buckling and bubbling with plastic-numbered keys. They slowly drifted across the surface of her flesh, accumulating into number pads. Her pursed lips were torn open, a terrible hole materialising in their place. She was shuddering and quivering as the entangled clusters of coiled phone wire spilled forth from her mouth and ruptured from her skin. The slender, dark shape of an old earpiece slides out from over the tongue and emerges from a mess of plastic cords. There was the sound of air rushing and a shrill cry of a hang-up tone as it began to speak.
At the third stroke, there is one new message. Do not move. There is one new message. Do not move. It will happen in due course, in standard time. Sorry, wrong number. Sorry, wrong number.
The scream was caught in my throat. All I could manage was a pathetic gurgling sound. My heart was beating so fast, I was so thirsty and there was so little air. I stumbled onto my back, I gazed into its dead plastic eyes as it looms over me.
There is one new message. There has been a connection error. Please try again. At the third stroke, the time sponsored by will be 3:48.
The mess of entangled wires engulfed me. The cords felt curiously warm and sticky as they slid across my skin. The wiring flexed as if testing the air, then slowly coiled around my limbs, binding me to the ground. Some of the cables pierced my skin, disappearing in a mound of dull red blood. Some of the cables entered through bodily orifices, sliding in through my throat, ears, eyes and anus. I could feel them squirming under my skin. I could feel them fusing with my brain, entangling it, entombing it, converting it. Then there was nothing. Nothing but my mind, my consciousness drifting away into vast emptiness. I could feel my mind fading, I could feel it consuming my thoughts, digesting my memories. Time has lost all meaning. My mind is so very weak. It walks with my body, I am it, I am it, am it. I hear it clicking. Someone has picked up. Don't hang up! Please help me! Please help me! Help me!